Kaulala Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai, Ba Hashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel. Blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel Brakta. Today's lesson: the many Native American tribes. Now, I went on to ask a question on Google on how many Native American Indian tribes are there, and the reply was there are 574 federally recognized Native American tribes in the United States, according to the U.S. government and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This number includes tribes located in Alaska, which is the 49th state, where 228 are recognized, and 346 in the contiguous United States. Contiguous United States is in reference to the 48 adjoining states and the District of Columbia, excluding Alaska and Hawaii, which are not physically connected to them. But this area is also known as the mainland or lower 48. Now, to know about these so-called Native American Indian tribes, let's begin in the scripture of Genesis 29 and 24. And here we have that scripture of Genesis 29 and 24. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Silpah, his maid, for an handmaid. Right, Laban gave his daughter Leah Silpah as a personal maid or female servant. And this occurred after Laban tricked Jacob into marrying Leah, his first eldest daughter, by hiding her under a veil. Genesis 30 and verse 9. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Silpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. So when Leah could no longer bear any more children unto Jacob, Leah took her maid Silpah and gave her unto Jacob to wife. And here we have Genesis 30 and verse 10. And Silpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. Right, Silpah gave Jacob a son named Gad. Genesis 30 and verse 11. And Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. So Gad became the seventh son of Jacob, born to Silpah, the handmaiden of Jacob's wife Leah. You see? Let's go over to another corresponding puzzle piece in Genesis 35 and 26, which says the following. And here we have Genesis 35 and 26. And the sons of Silpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padanaram. Right. Gad and Asher are both from the northern kingdom of Israel, and they both come from Leah's handmaid Silpah. Gad are the so-called North American Indians, and Asher are the so-called Colombians to Uruguay. And that word Padanaram, that's a fertile, flat region in the upper Mesopotamian area that's located in what is now modern-day Syria. Now, when it comes to the tribe of Gad, James Adair linked the Native Americans to the 10 lost tribes of Israel, right? And he's correct, which he argued in his 1775 book, The History of the American Indians. He supported this theory by pointing out what he saw as similarities in religious customs, language, and societal structure between Native American tribes and ancient Israelites. And there you have it. And that's true because the Bible itself also gives clues that the so-called Native American Indian tribes are Israelites. Now, James Adair linked the so-called Native American tribes with the ancient Israelites because he lived among them throughout the course of 40 years. And throughout the course of 40 years, you tend to know somebody and their customs. Let's go over to Deuteronomy 33 and 20. Deuteronomy 33 and verse 20. And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. Right. The blessing of the enlargement of Gad is the vast lands that was given unto them when the 10 tribes arrived to America on ships from the Atlantic Ocean. The woodlands of the east contain beautiful rivers and lakes, as well as prairie lands in the Midwest, including the Sienna Valley deserts and the Pacific West Coast. And Gad, he dwelleth as a lion, and that is relevant to the facial war paint and markings that the so-called Native American Indians wore. And as lions, they hunted the herds of buffalo with swiftness of the roe deer. You see? So the tearing of the arm, that pertains to the Native American Indians' blood brother alliance. Now, the crown of the head speaks of the feathered headdress or war bonnet worn by the chiefs. Let's prove that with Google's very own AI overview. Right, with their own AI overview, let's prove that. That's why this Google AI overview goes on to say, while war bonnets are not formally known by the alternative name crowns, they are often described as being the equivalent of a regal crown in Native American culture, symbolizing the highest respect, honor, and leadership. And it goes on to say, while the wide flaring shape of some war bonnets may have a commanding appearance similar to a lion's mane, the cultural and spiritual symbolism is tied directly to the esteemed qualities and physical features of the eagle and sometimes the bison in the case of horn bonnets, you see? Because sometimes you see them with horns on the sides. And that's the crown of the head that the scripture of Deuteronomy 33:20 spoke of. And of Gad he said, Blessed be he that enlargeth Gad. He dwelleth as a lion, and teareth the arm with the crown of the head. And that speaks of the Native American Indians of Gad. But let's further prove that in 1 Chronicles 5:18. Here we have 1 Chronicles 5:18. The sons of Reuben and the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,760 that went out to the war. The sons of Reuben are the so-called Seminole Indians. The Gadites are the North American Indians, and half the tribe of Manasseh speaks of the so-called Cubans. These valiant men of these tribes were skillful warriors of war that were able to bear buckler and sword and to shoot with bow. Right, with a bow and arrow. And when it comes to the so-called Native American Indians, they were skillful in war and in weapons, in weaponry, especially in the tomahawk axe and the bow and arrow. So you see, the scriptures do speak of the so-called Native American Indians. Here we have Deuteronomy 33 and verse 21. And he provided the first part for himself, because there in a portion of the lawgiver was he seated, and he came with the heads of the people. He executed the justice of the Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, and his judgments with Israel. Right, he provided the first part of himself, meaning that he also took of the land that was given to him in America, because amongst Gad there were leaders that executed the law. Being scouts, they came with the heads of the people and with the rest of the 10 tribes in migrating to America. Gad executed the justice of the Most High, right, the laws, and his judgments with Israel. And of all the tribes Out of all the tribes, Gad kept more of the laws, customs, and traditions of Israel. For instance, one of the traditions kept by Gad was the wearing of fringes, pursuant to the scripture of Numbers 15 and 38. That's why a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's why a picture is worth 1,000 words according to this image. Here we have a documented file doll image in the American Indian Museum that corresponds to the scripture of Numbers 15 and 38. Let's begin in Numbers 15 and 37. Numbers 15 and 37. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, and Moses was a so-called Haitian, but the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahushai, he made Moses marry his wife Zipporah because her father Jethro knew how to run a tribe. And when it comes to Zipporah, that is found in Exodus 2 and 21, Exodus 4 and 25, and Exodus 18 and 2. And Moses was a king, a prophet, and a priest. He was both a king and a prophet, and a statesman, and a leader. And Moses commanded us a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob, and he was king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together according to the scripture of Deuteronomy 33, 4 and 5. And Moses came back as Esdras and Zerubbabel. And here we have that scripture of Numbers 15 and 38. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. Right. And that's exactly what the doll had at the museum. Fringes and a ribbon of blue, showing you that the Native American Indians are Israelites. A picture is worth 1,000 words. But with that being said, Kal Allah Malak Yahweh, Wa Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash, and double honors to the elders of GMS Ruel, blessings unto those men, and blessings and salutations to the Akim out there in truth, pushing his word in all sincerity and in honesty. With that being said, Shalom Israel, Barakatah. Shalom.